Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and my space. Thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed and all of you who have subscribed in the past. I am so thankful and grateful that I have hit 2K. I did a video for a thank you video. It's a contest. I posted it on Friday, so you can go over and check that out if you would like to win a free reading with me. All that being said, let's hop into today's video. Now, today's video, by the title below, Eloise Asylum. This is an asylum that intrigued me a lot growing up as a kid. I used to go there a lot. I spent a lot of time going in and out of it. It was a place where you were not supposed to go. They tried deterring us from going in there many a times by putting up boards on windows, locking the things up, but we always found a way in. Now, before I get into the spooky factor of this place, I want to give you a brief history. So, Eloise Asylum started off in 1839 as a poorhouse. It was out in the country of Detroit. So, right now, today, it's called Westland, but back in the day, it was Nankin County, and it was a direct offshoot of Detroit. So it was like back in like woods and acres of like just country and like nothing around, nothing there. This is where they built this, and this is where they housed the poor, the outcasts of society, the people that they wished to forget about. And it ended up being its own community. It had its own power plant, its own police office, its own firehouse, its own bakery. There was more. Hold on. Had its own tavern called the Black Horse Tavern. It had a rail stop. But what I'm trying to say here is it was its own self-sufficient community, and it started in 1839, and it was, at first, it was a good place. It was a place, where members of society that were poor or didn't have homes or were just outcasted, they went there and they lived there. Now, as the time went on, they added more things like an asylum and a sanatorium for TB. But as the time went on, it added the asylum first. And this is where they put a lot of parents, not a lot, but, parents back in the day, when they had kids that had, like, autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, ADD, any of those mental illnesses or things that we know about today to not be so bad, that are manageable, that back then society did not see that as something, I don't know why the word isn't coming to me. They just didn't see those kids as normal. They saw them as outcasts. And the family, sad to say, the family saw that as not normal. And they did not want that type of child in their home because it would it would ruin their family's reputation. So they sent these kids to this asylum. They sent teenagers, kids, some kids as young as 3 and 4, they sent them there. And they would grow and live their entire lives in that asylum, which is pretty sad because the conditions there, as it went on, just only got worse. Overcrowding, overpopulation. And then I can't remember what year, exactly the year was, but there was a tuberculosis outbreak and they created a sanatorium. So they didn't really understand TB. They didn't understand how to treat TB. So they created a sanatorium there as well and sent people with TB to quarantine them there. And that's where a lot of the overcrowding came in to play. There were rooms about the size of 30 by 30 and they had 200 people in them. So that just goes to show you how overcrowded this place was. The conditions were unclean towards the end. They were not treating the patients right. They were abusing them. They used insulin therapy, hydrotherapy, and electroshock therapy. These patients often were neglected, mistreated, and it is really sad to say that I think it was like in 2000, I want to say 8 or 9, maybe 10, 2010, somewhere around those dates, people were unearthing tombstones. They were finding tombstones, and these tombstones did not have names on them. They were just numbers. That's all they were, numbers. Now, Wikipedia will not go into the bad conditions that went on there. Wikipedia does not speak on the overcrowding. Wikipedia kind of downplays how many people were there. I have read several articles on it. I did a full report on it back in school. And it is just sad that they treated human life like that. It was a place of mass depression, mass death, and there's a lot that goes into that and a lot that goes on with that. But for the most part, it ran its course from 1839 until when it finally closed its doors in 1982. So a little over 100 years, this building, 150 years, this sanatorium was in use. Sanatorium Asylum was in use. Now, with that all being said, the brief history on it. Now, today, it's been turned into, it's got a strip mall, it used to have old folk retirement homes, but I think as of late, they turned them into condos. The firehouse is still up, but it's boarded up. The power plant and the smokehouse the smokehouse got demolished in 2016. The power plant's still there. The railway system is completely dismantled. There are only a few buildings left on the actual property. Most of the property was sold out and turned into a golf course. Across the street, the cemetery is still there. But like I said, they were unearthing other gravestones within the property that wasn't in the cemetery that just had numbers. So it's extremely sad. It is extremely sad on the conditions that were there. Also, it was one of the first to develop the underground tunnel system. This place had tunnels that went underneath and went to every single building, from the smokehouse to the firehouse to the other, buildings that housed the patients. And those tunnels are freaky. Well, they're no longer there. When I went the first time I went, they were there, but they were kind of flooded and there were huge spider webs and stuff like that. I wouldn't go in it. But now those tunnels are completely gone, completely flooded in, completely caved in. So, with that all being said, with that brief history, I'm going to give you my own spooky accounts with Eloise Asylum. My first ever time going to Eloise, I've been there, like I said, a ton of times. And not every single time did I have a spooky encounter, but there were a bunch that I did. I could not get into every single one today, so I picked out a few that I find were my most terrifying ones, and we're going to get into the first one right now. So my first encounter was by far one of my most spookiest encounters there. It was me, and for the sake of this video, we'll call her Amber. And then we had 3 other guy friends, and I think at this time, about 13. And we went there, and in order to get in, we parked, because we did not want to be seen, you know, popo, cops, whatever. We parked in the back, and then we walked across the field, and then we walked down this embankment to get to these doors to the smokehouse and power plant. And when we went in there, I had, just walking down that embankment, sliding down that embankment, I could feel the oppressive, depressive, you know, just dread. I had a huge sense of dread come over me, to the point where I did not want to go in, but they all talked me into going into this place. So we get in there and we're goofing off, you know, going through files, looking around, you know, just exploring it. And we seen this hook, like, on this rafter. It was like this hook was on this rafter and it was just swinging like this. And everybody was like, oh, that's just the breeze. I'm like, that's creepy as hell. I want to get out of here. They're like, oh, come on, come on. They talked me into going further. Now, hook, swinging, yeah, breeze, okay? At the time, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking something totally different. So we're walking through, and we come past the electroshock therapy room. And I could see out of the corner of my eye, like, all this, like, bzz, 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 bzz. Nobody else could see it. It spooked me. I screamed, and I got called a scaredy cat for it. But they convinced me to keep going, I had goosebumps from the top of my crown chakra all the way down to my tailbone. I could feel static electricity just like going right through me. It scared the crap out of me. Every single hair was standing up on my body. My inner voice was telling me I shouldn't be there. I needed to get out. Do not go any further. But like all of us do when we're trying to fit in, when we're younger, when we're teenagers, we have this sort of like childlike courage that comes up in order to, you know, fit in. So we continue to go, and we heard something clang. And we looked over and we saw these lights. It looked like flashlights, like the lights of a flashlight. And that's when we all took off running, because we thought it was like popo, cops, you know, something like that coming in to, you know, tell us we can't be here and arrest us or whatever for trespassing. So we ran. And as we're running, you know, towards where we came in at, I look up at the hook and I see it just go, it fell from the rafter, boom, just fell. And it was kind of like hooked on to like this, and it was just like swinging like that. I mean, like you wouldn't, it was on a pipe, but the hook was like longer than the pipe on the one side, and it was swinging. So you wouldn't think that it would fall down, but it swang like really, really fast and then fell down. As we were running, I noticed this. And as we come out, like I heard in the back of my head, get the fuck out. And we ran towards this embankment, and you had to climb up. You got to hold on to like tree roots or whatever to climb up this embankment. And they're in front of me, and I don't understand how it always happened to me with my friends. I was the first usually to go in, and I was always the last one that was left running. But anyways, so I'm running up this embankment. Amber's in front of me. The guys are in front of her. Really nice, right? They leave the 2 girls behind to deal with whatever's going on. they were douchebags. But anyways, so they're getting the crap out of there. She slips a little bit, but she goes. And I'm like trying to climb up this embankment, and then all of a sudden I feel hands around my ankle yank me down. And I did. I freaking fell. And I felt these hands yanking me down. And I looked down and there's nothing grabbing me, no root. Because, at first I thought it was hands, like the cop or something. And then when I turned around, I thought, well, maybe it's a root. And I didn't see anybody. I thought maybe it was a root that grabbed me. There was nothing around my ankle. So I go in a panic. I'm trying to get up this embankment. And then it happens again to my other ankle. I get yanked and pulled down. And my heart is like pounding out of my chest. I look behind again, nothing. I'm like, please just let me get out of here. And I got, Jenny like helped me up. She grabbed my hand and I got up the embankment and we left. The guys were already back at the car waiting for us. And we're like, thanks a lot, for leaving us. I don't think we ever hung out with them again after that, rightfully so. They were douchebags. But anyways, so that was scary. By the time we got back, they dropped me and Amber back off at my house, and I told her what happened. Like, she's like, you probably were just slipping or something. And I'm like, no, trust me, I felt hands. So I roll up my jeans, and on both of my ankles are bruises that look like hand marks. I'm sorry, I'm getting the chills just thinking about it. I don't know if that scared you guys. Hopefully it did, but hopefully it gives you some realization that when you go in there, at this time in my life, I knew I had psychic abilities, but I had no idea how to guard myself from negative entities or negative forces. So it scared the crap out of me. And I think for days after that, I had nightmares about that place. So fast forward, and I would go there a ton of times after that. It's like that place called to me, which was, at the time, I had no idea. But at the time, that first time that I went in there, I got a negative attachment. And that's why I was called back to that place over and over and over and over again. And I didn't get rid of my negative attachment until I was like 18. 18 is when I finally got rid of my negative attachment from that place. So I had it attached to me from the time I was, for about 5 years. So the next time that I want to talk about going in there is I went in there with my friend Maddie. I think I did a story with Maddie previously on one of my other previous Spooky Story Sundays, but she is also very psychic, and she has the ability to sense energy and feel energy and know if a place is haunted or not. And me, her, and her sister, and I think her sister's best friend, and then there were a couple of other guys. There was about 10 of us that decided one night we were bored, and I was like, hey, let's go to Eloise. Because Maddie hadn't gone there, her sister hadn't gone there, her sister's best friend hadn't gone there. I think there was like 2 other people in our group that didn't go there, but 2 others that went with us that knew of the place, that had been in the place. And they're like, oh yeah, on top of the power plant, if you throw a pop bottle down the side, it'll shoot back up. And everybody's like, oh yeah, let's go see that, da 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 da. So we all get in our cars and we go, and we went down the embankment, to get in, but it was boarded up. There was no way to get in it. So one of our friends went around the side, and they found this rail car system, because Eloise did have rail cars back in the day. So we climbed up onto this rail car system and then got through a window that was busted out. And so we got in there. And as we're, getting from the rail car into the window, it like a couple of the guys went first, and then I went, they helped me in, and then Maddie came in, and then her sister, whatever. And as me and Maddie are standing there, I'm seeing shadow figures like everywhere. She said that she saw shadow figures as well, but I kept that to myself because I didn't want these people to think I was nuts, because the time that I went in there with Amber, everybody thought I was nuts. So I kept that to myself. And we formed, it was like a tight like walkway. So we had to kind of like walk in twos, that like in like a line in twos. So me and Maddie are walking together, and all of a sudden I hear this go right past my ear, and this go right past my ear at the same time. And it terrified me. I screamed. Everybody stopped, looked back at me, and I said, "Did you all hear that?" And they're all like, "No." And Maddie's like, "I heard that." And I look down, and she's clutching my arm. She has got my arm in a death grip. And she's like, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here." And I'm like, I know. Trust me, I know. But her sister's like, "Oh, come on, you two. Da, 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 da. You guys are being stupid." So we kept going. We kept walking. And as we were going, we'd hear these faint moans and these faint whispers just fly right by our ears. And sometimes it would feel like they were walking like right through us. And it scared the bejeebus out of us. But we had people in front of us, people behind us. There was no way for us to turn around on this ledge. So we get out into an open area, and Maddie's freaking out. She's like, "I want to go. I'm done with this place." Da, 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 da. And they're like, "No, we got to climb up here." So we climbed up like this, like, very weird looking ladder. We probably should not have been climbing up on it. I'm surprised it didn't fall down on us. But we climbed up onto the top of the roof. And they had a pop bottle, and they were going to throw the pop bottle down to see if the pop bottle came back up. So they threw the pop bottle down. Pop bottle did not come back up. Rumored, right? It's rumor. That's why they call it rumors or legends, right? Didn't come back up. But as we're hanging out and we're chilling out on the roof, I felt a little bit more safer. I mean, I still had that eerie sense of dread, but I was up higher. I could see what was going on. I wasn't in a building that had pipes and all sorts of things around me. So, and then in the sky was, I think it was a full moon, so it was bright out, and the roof kind of lit up a little bit, so I felt a little bit better. But all of a sudden we heard Jackie scream. And Jack, what happened to Jack is he fell. He was sitting on this hole, and he screamed, and luckily he caught himself, but he said that he felt something pull him backward into this hole, because he was sitting on it. They had like these holes, or like these little like stacks, and he was sitting on the ledge of it because he needed somewhere to sit. And he said that when he was sitting on it, he felt something pull him back. So now there's 3 of us that are believing this crap. Now there's 3 of us, all right? So we're like, okay, let's wrap this up. Let's get out of here. We didn't have any problem leaving, but walking back, me and Maddie still heard the faint moans and groans and stuff by our ear, and it just, whew. And I remember Maddie saying, "That is the most intense ghost experience I've ever had." And I'm like, yeah, it is. It really was, because this is a place where people underwent so much pain and so much sorrow. And they want to be heard. They don't want to be forgotten. And back when they started to unearth the tombs, like, because they would, I think it was in like 2008 or 2010, somewhere around there, people were finding, not in the cemetery, off in, the regular grounds, they were finding tombstones, and they just had numbers on them. So, I mean, some of these people were just discarded as like, their life didn't matter. So these people, lots of pain and lots of sorrow. Another time that I went there, now this is a more, or I don't want to say more recent, this was like the last time I went there. Now, there is a rumor about a little boy being in the firehouse or the fire station. And I can't remember exactly what the story was, something about him burning to death in the firehouse. I'm not sure if that's the exact accurate description of what had happened to him, but I do remember hearing about a little boy there. And when I was 18, this was the last time that I went back. I went back with a group of my friends and my current boyfriend at the time. There was probably about 4 or 5 of us, and we went back, and there was no way to get into Eloise. You couldn't get into it on the railway system was completely gone. It was completely boarded up. So we wanted to go check out the firehouse because every time I've gone there, I've always gone to the power plant, the smokehouse. I never went to the firehouse. Even though I heard stories about the firehouse, we always had planned to go to the firehouse, but we never really made it to the firehouse because we were always spooked and got out of there. So we decided to go to the firehouse. We decided to give up our trying to get into the one building. We went to the firehouse. And as we're approaching the firehouse, I could hear faint cryings of the little boy. And as I turned the corner, I got a vision in my third eye of the inside of the firehouse. And I saw him standing there with just like crying, like blood dripping down his face, and he was burnt. Now, I don't know if that's exactly how he died. There are rumors that he burnt to death there, but I don't know if that is completely accurate, although when I saw him, he was burned. So I don't know if he had burned in the firehouse or if he was in a building that had burned, and his ghost was attracted to maybe one of the firemen, and that's why he's in the firehouse. But I did see him visually in my mind's eye, and I heard him crying. And another one of the people that were with us, my ex-boyfriend at the time, had heard him crying as well. So we tried to get into that building as well, but that building was also boarded up, and we just ended up leaving. But I did hear him crying inside the firehouse. And it spooked me down to my core because I actually saw him in my third eye. And I was ready to get out of there by that time. And if I could, I would go back there and try to help him find peace. But I think now they are totally watching that place. I know that they do ghost tours through Eloise. I'm not sure if I know they did them last October, and they were talking about doing them over and over and over again. But they've developed, I think, some of those retirement homes into condos now. I don't think they're retirement homes anymore. Well, the buildings they turned into retirement homes at one point, and now I believe they are condos. But I believe that there's another building that they tore down in 2016. But I know that the Michigan Ghost Hunters Society or whatever gives ghost tours through there. So I might go on a ghost tour. I'm not sure. Not sure. I kind of want to help that little boy find peace. But anyways, so that is my experience with Eloise Asylum. I hope that it brought some little sense of spookiness to you, or that you were intrigued enough about it. There is a movie about the Eloise Asylum. I'm not sure where to get it at. I know they did make a movie about it. So if any of you viewers have seen the movie, please let me know in the comment section below. Please let me know if you know of where I can get the movie from. But I hope you all have an amazing week. Thank you so much for clicking on and for subscribing. If you like this story and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button. I'd love to have you here. We'd all love to have you here. And please remember to stay safe and be kind to one another. Bye.